Hello. I'm going to talk to you about an informative speech only about food, specifically food in America. And so the things I'm going to talk about is why it's important to learn about food, why that's significant, what it does to us, how we relate to food, and what currently relationship we have with food and why that's significant. So firstly, where do we learn about food? Well, in school today they have a very short afternoon 15-minute project that has to do with the food pyramid, and that's it. They might in a good school system give a identification color piece of paper that says, can you identify these foods, and so forth and so on. Jamie Oliver, who's on TV, has some program, I'm not real sure what it is. He went to a bunch of primary schools and asked kids to identify different foods that were found in the produce aisle. Most of the kids could not identify things like potatoes, onions, squash. They just couldn't. He would hold them up, and the kids could not tell you what it was, and it was very distressing. And he transformed that after, I think it was 2 15-minute sessions. Kids could name everything. They picked on it very quickly. So it's easily addressable, but the state of what we do with our food and how we learn about it is very significant. In schools, it doesn't happen enough. But so the other way that we learn about foods is through nutrition labels and what's on the side of the box, what's on the packaging that tells you what's in the food, ingredients lists, and so forth and so on. 90% of people don't understand what's on the labels. And that's according to Yahoo News. 90% of people who look at labels don't understand the best used by or when it expires. 90% of people don't understand how to translate what the food labels actually mean. And culture plays a really strong part in how we relate to food and how we learn about it. Other cultures are very immersed in food and spices, and cooking is a different type of event in the household, and it's different in America and how we relate to food. Food is very much a get and go type of experience. Media plays a very significant part in how we relate to food. Specifically, if you're a child, you're going to get the snack that's sponsored by your favorite cartoon character. It's going to be on the box. So along with your cereal, it's going to have cartoon characters on it. And also food magazines like Bon Appetit or anything like that. Those are also how you're going to learn about food. That's going to be more of recipes, but it's not necessarily going to tell you about what's healthy in food or why you should eat these foods versus those foods. And again, the advertisements in those magazines all expose you to food, and that's how you learn about food, because no one's talking to you about food the same way they would talk to you about a job that you're going to do or something that's going to keep you alive. Kids learn about food in school. They learn about food through the food pyramid, like I said. They also learn about food through their school lunches. What's provided to them that's going to set the standard for how they might choose to eat their lunches throughout the rest of their life. Fast food, pizzas, hamburgers, fries, that's going to be what they know. It's what they're exposed to, it's what they know, so that's what they're going to continue to do. And that goes on to the family habits of you're going to emulate the family habits of eating that you have at home. And when you're a kid, or maybe you remember when you were a child, who buys the food is going to influence what you eat. So if the person buying your food has a particular taste, that's how you're going to end up eating your food and developing the same tastes. And food labels, obviously, is how we learn about what's in the food we're choosing to eat. But why is this important? So this is understanding food and understanding the relationship with food and what that means is very important. Primarily because it affects your health. And that's very significant because being alive is important to me, and I would hope to the rest of the viewers out there. Unfortunately, it's the #1 killer in America, which is, according to Dean Ornish, it's the in his TED Talk he covers this. It's the #1 preventable diet-related illness of cardiovascular disease. What you eat affects how healthy you are and it's the #1 killer. 2, 3, and 4, the rest of the list combined does not equal what cardiovascular disease does to people. You want to live longer, eat better. The way we relate to food has changed in the last 50 years. 50 years ago, fast food chains were just starting, and it was that in the last 50 years has transformed how we relate to food. Also, the way we do food right now is not environmentally sustainable. We continue on the trend we're going on. We will run out of what we have going. We will not be able to sustain this for any definite period of time within our children's generation. And the global hunger and local hunger are also very significant factors in how we relate to food and what's gonna.
There's a bug on your face.
It's still on your face.
Is it gone?
No, it's on your shoulder now. Apparently it liked your speech.
So I'd like to cover, do we need to eat meat? Is meat essential to our diet? It's very environmentally expensive to sustain livestock and husbandry, animal husbandry. It's an expensive environmental cost. And the truth is we do need some of the things that meat provides for us. B12 and the omega-3 fatty acids are very crucial to developing healthy brains. There was a study, and that's according to Drew Ramsey in the book of Farmland. Farmland being F-A-R-M, not... Anyway. So they did a study and they looked at vegans, and vegans were all B12 deficient. And what that led to was fatigue, depression, decreased cognition, and eventually nerve damage. And low B12 it correlates to memory, affecting your memory and your moods. So the next question, do we need milk in our diets? And the straight answer is no, we do not need milk in our diets. Dairy is not necessary to sustain a healthy lifestyle. It's high in added sugar, and I'll cover the effects of sugar in the next section. It is not the highest or the best source of calcium. Hormones in dairy products have been scientifically linked to increased cancer. That's straight out of the Harvard News by Corydon Ireland. She directly correlated dairy products to an increase in cancer, and that's how that is. Do we need sugar in our diets? If you've ever listened to Dr. Lugston's, he's a pediatrician. He's got an hour lecture called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. It's an amazing hour-and-a-half long video about what sugar does to your system and how it affects you. Specifically, glucose, fructose, those two things produce low-density lipoproteins, which are the cause or a significant factor in creating cardiovascular disease. So when you increase your sugar, you increase your likelihood of disease. And in excess of sugar, it turns into fat. So, lastly, are processed foods healthy? 70% of the foods we eat are processed foods, and that comes from Megan Warren out of Pandora's Lunchbox. 70% of the foods that Americans eat are processed foods. There are over 5,000 additives allowed in our foods by the FDA. And here's the funny thing about FDA. It's the people who make our food, they are self-regulated, and they are voluntarily reporting. They can add whatever they want, and they don't have to tell the FDA. It's voluntary and self-regulated. So it's not a very efficient system to maintain So there are 8 banned foods. There are 8 specific foods I'm going to cover that are banned in other countries. There are food dye, which creates nerve damage, olestra, which is vitamin deficiency and anal leakage, bromide vegetable oil, which is organ damage, birth defect.
Fire retardant.
Yeah, it's a fire retardant. Growth problems, schizophrenia, and memory loss. Potassium bromide causes kidney damage, cancer, and nervous system damage. Azodicarbonamide induces asthma. BAH and BHT, they cause cancer. genetically induced, genetically created growth hormone, infertility, weakened muscle growth and cancer, arsenic, and that's a poison. Those are all ingredients that are allowed in our food systems. And that's from Dr. Jason Cadden from Rich Food, Poor Food. So that's why it's important to learn about your food and what you're eating. So thank you very much for your time.
There.